Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful lunch break. We'll give everyone just a couple minutes to hop on here. Let us know where you're viewing from. Hello, hello. I'm going to do some quick introductions. If you're just joining for the first time today, I'm Liz Prue, VP of Marketing here at Base. I'll be your MC for the day, and I am so excited for this next guest. She is absolutely amazing. Liz Van Voorhis. Hello, Liz. How are you?
Doing great.
Thank you so much for joining today.
I'm excited to be here.
Everyone, Liz is, so y'all will love this. I was introduced to Liz by a Base Live celebrity, Lindsay Robinson, EA at LinkedIn. She is fabulous, and so thus all of her friends are fabulous. And so I was introduced to Liz, and I think we had a call scheduled for 30 minutes that turned into like an hour and a half because she's just so fantastic. Liz is the founder and CEO of Fit Collective, and today she is going to give us a lesson in why self-care is not selfish and how it can benefit you professionally. Liz endured 6 major health hardships in 6 years, teaching her resiliency and pushing her to pursue her purpose in life and develop her company, Fit Collective. So this is an interactive session where you're going to hear her tell her story and reflect on the barriers that keep you from living the most well version of your life, which right now is, it's always more important than ever, but I think a lot of us are coming to that realization now, given the current environment. But I'm going to toss it off to Liz so she can share a little bit more about herself and kick things off. And if you're new, there's a chat in your Facebook feed or on YouTube if you're viewing on there, and drop all your questions and comments there. Liz is going to be interacting with y'all too. So I'm really excited for you guys to enjoy this session. Liz, I'll kick it off to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Liz, number one. Guys, we're going to get started actually by getting out of our chairs and standing up. So I know, especially everybody on the East Coast, perhaps you just had a little lunch and are settling back in, but I got to get you moving. So don't worry, you're not going to get sweaty. You don't need a lot of space. You don't need equipment. You don't need special clothing. I just want you to stand up from your desk and we are going to get moving a little bit. So let's go. I'm going to play some music and get us excited for this session. So take a little space standing up. And I want you to start by just taking a deep breath, okay? So arms come up overhead. Exhale it out. One more time, deep breath in. Exhale it all out. You're reaching your arms out right and left. We reach, reach, reach right here. So I know you can't see your neighbors, but we're reaching, trying to reach out and touch them. Good. So getting that torso nice and warmed up, nice and flexible. I want to see a smile on your face because it's a great day. Let's go. Speed it up right here. We're reaching right and left. Good. Reach for it. I want you to think about what it is you're reaching for today, what it is you're trying to pull into your life, into your day. Good. In 4, 3, those hands are going to go overhead. You're going to reach up slowly. Reach up to the sky, pull it down, good. Just like that, you guys are doing great. I can feel the energy a little faster. Let's go, reach it up, reach it up. Pull whatever you need today into your life. Hands are gonna come forward, let's go. Getting that circulation going, blood flowing, heart beating, lungs expanding. Right here, I just want you to sit back like you're sitting into a chair. Good, arms can come up and out. Shoulders down, back is straight. You can even sit down and tap your chair right behind you if you want. Just like that. All right, we're gonna hold those palms up and we're just gonna turn them down right here, slow. Down and up, that's it. So I want you stretching through your shoulders, opening up the arms. Good, 2 more. Last one, you're just gonna hold the palms up. We're gonna go back, back, back right here. So squeezing those shoulder blades, just like that. Let's flip those palms over, squeeze it back. Good, feel the body, get in touch with it. Right here, palms go up and down. It's up, down, up, down. That's it. A little movement to mix up our day, to get that body going. Woo! To get a smile on your face. Hold it up right here. Hold it up. One arm comes over, other side. So a little stretch through the side body right here. Hold it. Just hold and breathe. Switch sides. Hold. Tiny bend in the knees right here. One more time each side. Just like that. Guys, doing so great. Shake out those arms. Great job. We are going to get into it. Now that you've moved a little bit, you know, movement always makes you feel better, right?
I just wanted to show everyone, I was 100% participating in my dress, okay? 100%. I'll kick you back to you, but I wanted everyone to know I was fully rocking out.
I love it. I love it. You know, I kept an easier version going, but to have all types of movement experiences. So again, my name is Liz Van Voorhis. I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today. That song, if you didn't catch the name of it or know it, is called Ain't Nobody Loves You Better. So we are talking today about self-care and who has to love you the most? You. Ain't nobody loves you better than you. I'm going to put my earpods on and we are going to get right into it, guys. Here we go. So this session is all about loving yourself. In the beginning track, if you guys were here in the very opening, Megan talked about Megan from TAC talked about that your most important job is to protect your executive's time. But I'm going to ask you a question. What are you doing to protect yours? You know, in the current job that you're in, if you had to interview for the job that you're in right now, and knowing that the most important job that you have is to protect your executive's time, and they asked you, this is the most important part of your role, we'd love to know more about how you do that for yourself. Could you answer that in a way that you feel proud of? Could you answer that in a way that shows that you're qualified to protect somebody else's time? And that's really what we're talking about today. How do you show up for yourself so that you can then show up for others? Everybody's heard the oxygen on an airplane analogy, and many of you are going, but I'm a mom. I have hormones that tell me to do the opposite of that. You will not be the professional, the parent, the friend, the partner, any of those items without first taking care of yourself. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about exactly what that looks like. So I'm going to bring my slides up right here. Okay. Why self-care is not selfish. That's what we're talking about today. So everybody thinks about self-care as maybe face masks, pedicures, or whatever your definition is of it. This is my adorable niece, Ronan, and taking a little relaxation time for herself. And this could absolutely be self-care in your definition. But really, self-care is getting to know yourself deeply and understanding what it is we need to be the best version of ourselves. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The ability to answer these questions will help you better adopt self-care principles into your life. So understanding what motivates us, you know, in the work environment, or if you're a leader of other people or have been a leader of other people, you know that managing others, one of the most critical components is understanding what motivates people, right? Even with your executives that you support, understanding what motivates them is important to you being able to do your job successfully. But have you asked yourself that question, and do you understand that about yourself? What motivates you? How do we get our energy? You know, I think last year, obviously the pandemic is going to come up a lot in this conversation. It was a case study in us being able to understand what depletes and what replenishes our energy and the effect that it has on us in our professional lives and our personal lives when those levels are not where they should be. So how do we get our energy? And lastly, what inspires us? Because if we don't have constant inspiration in our life and throughout our day, we can't show up as the best version of ourselves. You know, in the opening session, and, you know, I know you had some other folks on here throughout the day that have mentioned professional coaches and executive coaches and using somebody to help accelerate your growth. But, you know, the ability to understand what inspires us helps us come to new levels with what we're capable of achieving and what our output looks like. And to the point where you might not even understand that you're not giving 100% because you're uninspired. And that doesn't mean that, you know, your direct boss or the people around you that are coworkers, that their job is to inspire you. It means, how are you seeking inspiration in all aspects of your life that allow you to live the fullest version of your life? So I'm going to take you through a couple of these ways that we can restore our energy. And this is going to look different for everybody, but I'm just going to show you a couple of examples. 20 to 30 minute power nap, a solo vacation, walks during the day, meditation, massage, nutritious food, cryotherapy. Okay, now, if you've contemplated some of these activities in your life, or somebody has said to you, you know, why don't you take a 20-minute power nap during the day? I'm going to guess your response was, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. I have things to do. But I'm going to show you who participates in these activities. Barack Obama is a fan of the 20 to 30 minute power nap while he was leading the most powerful nation in the world. Sarah Blakely, creator and CEO of the first $1 billion female-led company, Spanx, just took a solo vacation in preparation for her 50th birthday. And she has like 1 million kids, 4 kids. Warren Buffett, so one of the leading financial minds and thought leaders and head of creator of Berkshire Hathaway. If you want a meeting with Warren Buffett, you're going to have to walk and talk. So he takes a lot of his meetings as walks throughout the day. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, arguably one of, you know, the largest, busiest companies in the world, finds time to meditate throughout the day. And then lastly, and this may be one everybody has heard of and knows, but LeBron James spends $1.5 million a year taking care of his body. And if you hear that, you're probably like, well, I don't have $1 million to take care of my body, which is understandable. But if you look at it proportionate to the investment that he's making in what his output is, it's worth every single dollar for him to be not only the best player, but to really invest in the longevity as a player, right? So I'm going to ask you a question, because as I've worked with lots of people throughout the years, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and my story in just a moment. One of the things that I have found needs to be answered first before we can explore all of these questions and all of these activities is, why am I worth it? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about why you are worth it? So I'm going to come out of the slideshow and ask you that question. I would love to know why you are worth it. So I would love for you to write in the chat, to think about for a moment your personal statement around worthiness, why you are worth it, why you are worth investing in taking care of yourself. Let's see some of the responses that come through. Everyone seems to like the power naps. Let's see. Why am I worth it? I'd love to hear. And this is a hard question for some people to answer. So as we're waiting for some of the input to come in and responses to come up, if this is challenging for you to think about, I want this to be your homework, that you're going to spend a bit of time writing your worthiness statement, because if you can't answer that question for yourself, nobody else is going to be able to answer it for you. So we've got a couple coming in. There's only one me, because people are counting on me. I can't pour from an empty cup. I can't be the best mom. Exactly. And, especially when we have kids and families, it's not just, your ability to care for everybody else. It's the model that you're setting for the people in your life, right? It's one of the things I loved about, if anybody read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, what is the model that you're setting for the people in your life by showcasing these behaviors? I'm worth it so that I'm my best self for my family and those around. I love it. Exactly. So we have to answer this question for ourselves first before we can really start to then work on it. I teach a time management course, and really what it breaks down to in terms of managing time and understanding how we better manage and prioritize our time is energy. It's about optimizing our energy throughout the day and throughout our lives, and finding the ways that we can refill that energy so that we can do all of the things that we want to do. During this last year, one of my pandemic takeaways, and maybe some of you feel similarly, I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do ever again. Does not mean that there aren't work obligations, personal, family obligations that are going to happen, but there's a different way, right? Like perhaps you got called into all of these different coffee meetings, in BC before COVID, and you spent all this time and you wanted to interact and you wanted to serve and you wanted to show up for other people, but it depleted your energy and it took away from your time. Well, now you can have a Zoom coffee with somebody and it takes significantly less time. So thinking about what are the things in your life that you previously thought you had to do, and now you have new perspective about how you want to spend your time and prioritize it. So a little bit about my story. In a month, actually, in less than a month, April 6th, will be 26 years that I have been living with type 1 diabetes. So I was diagnosed as a teenager. And for those of you who don't know, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and the body attacks itself and renders the pancreas unable to produce insulin. And it's a life-threatening disease. So I synthetically take insulin and monitor my sugars at all time. And it's had a profound impact on my life, including health becoming my number one priority and my top value. So my professional experience, I started working with The Gap. I started at a store in college. It was my favorite store at the time. Never thought it would turn into a career. Ended up doing an internship with them, moving to San Francisco and working at corporate. And I ran promotions and events for Gap brand. I did their first ever mobile tour and fell in love with experiential marketing. Moved to San Diego, worked for a retail sampling company that did food sampling. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with Costco's food sampling program. In fact, it may be the reason that you actually go to Costco. My company developed that years ago, and they brought me in to start up their retail experience division. And so I worked there about 3 years, built out a big team and a big business from the ground up. It was a really exciting opportunity, but I wanted to get back to a city. So I moved to New York and worked for a large scale experiential agency. So it was Lead Dog Marketing was the name. And we developed all types of large experiences. My team, I was a VP of accounts there. My team did everything from Intel's Consumer Electronics Show booth to a 10K race series with Women's Health Magazine and the Feed Foundation in New York, San Francisco, Chicago. Took Intel around the world on tour. So these big, massive experiences. And then at the same time, I had taken my first aerobics class at the age of 8 in a church basement with my mom and fell in love with fitness. So I have been a fitness instructor on the side ever since college. And it was a big passion of mine. It was always a side hustle. And then life happened. So I had, as Liz mentioned, 6 major health hardships in 6 years. In 2011, I had hip surgery, elective surgery. I had an overuse injury from teaching too much and just overusing my hip. And it was a massive surgery, 75 stitches, 10 weeks on crutches, 10 months of rehab. And 6 weeks later, I had a blood clot as a complication from the surgery. And so that was a Tuesday. That Friday, I spent the night in the hospital with severe abdominal pain because I had gallstones. But unfortunately, I could not have my gallbladder removed because I was on blood thinner protocol at that point. Fast forward a couple months, and I, for the only time having type 1 diabetes, besides my diagnosis, I was ill and had what's called ketoacidosis. And I spent 3 days in the hospital due to an insulin pump malfunction. So I finally got my gallbladder removed in February of 2012 and was like, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to get back to normal life. Health is my top priority. I had this many things happen in 10 months. Many people don't have those in 10 years. And a month later, my mom was diagnosed with a grade 4 glioblastoma, which if anybody knows, I'm sorry you know what that is. It's basically the worst brain tumor diagnosis. And she was sick for a year and a month and passed away. And she was 55 years old. And it was a real wake-up call for me in my life that I was not living my purpose on this planet. And hopefully everyone can see me. I was not living my purpose on this planet, and I needed to figure out what that was and very quickly start living every second, every moment, every day in pursuit of my purpose. So I took some time to explore that. And, I wasn't happy at the time. And I thought it was my job that was making me unhappy, right? That's what we think, that something else is making us unhappy, a job, a partner, and, circumstances, whatever it is. And I went in pursuit of what my purpose was. And I actually now teach a workshop on purpose and values because it was so integral in my life and understanding my path. And truly, once I figured it out, there was never a day that I didn't jump out of bed again. So my purpose is to inspire others to be healthier, and everything that I do now is in pursuit of that. So quit my corporate life, was like, I'm going to take a year brain sabbatical is what I called it, and just teach spin class. So I taught, 15 spin classes a week and reconnected with my soul and knew that this was a stepping stone to get back into the fitness industry for me. Flash forward a couple years and I had an 8-centimeter tumor removed from my right breast. So I had 2 surgeries because we had to remove it, but then we weren't sure if it was cancerous or not. Something that large, it's just hard to know prior to removing it. So removed, tested it. Luckily, it was not cancer, and had reconstruction surgery in June of 2016. And then in February 2017, I had vocal cord surgery because I had been yelling a little too much on those spin bikes, as Lindsay Robinson can attest to, because that's actually where I met her, was on a spin bike. And it was on the beach post vocal cord surgery. My voice was literally removed. I wasn't allowed to talk, right? So I had 2 weeks of vocal rest. That I wrote the business plan for my company, Fit Collective. We developed partnerships between brands in fitness and wellness. And I knew that I had felt like so many things were happening to me, and I just didn't understand going into the vocal cord surgery. Why are so many things happening to me? I keep getting kicked while I'm down. I don't understand it. And I learned they weren't happening to me. They were happening for me. And if those series of challenges had not been put into my path, I would not have accomplished nearly what I was meant to accomplish on this planet and in this life. So came up with the idea for my business. And then the pandemic happened. And I'm not laughing at, the circumstances of what's happened the last year. It's been devastating financially, emotionally, so many lives lost, but all of us had to pivot, every single one of us, and in some ways, I think that what I had been through prepared me for something like this. If I can get through hardships in the way that I experienced them and still stand back up stronger every single time, I can get through anything. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. But all of a sudden, fitness, live experiences, they're all gone, right? So my business that I've been working so hard on developing and finally having some great traction went away overnight, right? In the format that I knew it. And so my pandemic pivot, which we're coming up on a year on, we went into lockdown. I was in New York on that Friday. Monday, I started streaming classes. It was what I knew I could do. It was the gift that I had that I could bring forward in that time with so much uncertainty. And I knew for certain that if people moved their body, they would get through this much better than if they didn't. So I just started streaming. I'd never used video. I'd never done live classes in that manner, but I just knew I had to bring it forward. So I started streaming and ultimately ended up pivoting my business into the virtual wellness experience space, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about later, but realizing that all of these companies that needed a way to engage their employees, their constituents, their clients, needed people like me to help bring that forward. And I'd spent years cultivating a network of fitness professionals, wellness practitioners, and brands, and now I could use those to help all of you guys. So I bought a car. I drove across the country in October and I came to LA. And I'm telling you that because I needed space. I needed sunshine. As somebody who's high risk for COVID, I was really connected, like I talked about in the beginning, about what it is I needed in the moment to take care of myself, despite what other people in my life thought, right? It wasn't the safe option. It was riskier, who knew what was on the other side. I'm a, woman by myself driving across the country, but I knew this is what I needed to thrive and to find what motivates me, to understand how my energy is replenished and to be continuously inspired. So we have one vessel. And truly through this entire experience, that's what it has taught me and shaped my philosophy around this. Right? We've only got one of these. We've only got one life and we've got one vessel, and we need to take care of it in a way that allows us to live our greatest potential. So my training philosophy, my personal philosophy through which I live, and how I spread messaging, whether I'm doing, brand activations or virtual wellness or training and teaching classes, I'm preparing you to live the best life. That's it. So I would love to know really quick, one thing that you want to be healthy and strong enough to do post-pandemic. I know we're all looking forward to a lot of different things that we can do once restrictions are more lifted, but what is one thing that you would really like to be healthy and strong enough to take on in your life? Let's see what you guys say. I'm so impressed by the woman behind the curtain. I mean, it's like it magically appears. It must be because her name's Liz. I think that is definitely the reason. Okay, let's see. One thing that you want to be strong and healthy enough to do. My first 30-mile bike ride. Travel and see God's world. It is so beautiful out there. There's so many things. Driving across the country was such a great realization during this time. There's so much fear and uncertainty, but seeing with your own eyes this gorgeous country of ours, run for office, hike in the mountains, travel, so many things. So see my family. I know I want to hug my nieces and nephews so badly, but as we know, getting on a plane, putting our suitcase in the compartment above, just surviving the airport, hiking the mountains. Lindsay and I actually went for a big birthday of hers to Bali and hiked to the top of Mount Batur in Bali. And if you ever get the chance to do it, it's a sunrise hike. When you have to leave at 3:30 and you're like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I going out with a headlamp in the middle of the night? When you're standing at the top amongst the clouds, it is the most beautiful and amazing experience. But if I wasn't strong enough to be able to do that, I would have missed out on that experience and that opportunity. So I'm going to go back to the slideshow for a little bit, and we'll keep talking right here. Okay. So how do you do what I've been talking about? Obviously in an hour presentation, I'm not going to be able to share everything, but I've distilled down how I best think you can take care of your one vessel in order to live the best version of your life. So motivation, a lot of people, I have done a lot of surveys over my time, whether it's directly with the public or with different companies, and asking them, what are the factors that are keeping you from achieving your wellness goals? And time is at the top, right? But right behind it is perceived willpower or motivation, right? I'm sure some of you have said that before. I just don't have enough willpower, or I'm not motivated. Look, there is a spectrum of different ways that we're all motivated, right? That's one of the reasons that I asked you to ask yourself that. How are you motivated? But understanding that there are systems and tools and processes that we can put in place based on where we are in that spectrum. And that's how it becomes then a part of our life, and not just something we do, but it becomes who we are. So when we're talking about motivation, some really easy, quick things to focus on are media. What media are you consuming? I know we can all kind of get in a blind scrolling habit, but how are you choosing the media that you want to look at or listen to or consume every single day? So for me, one of the biggest things that I've made a positive impact in my life, I used to only read on airplanes and on commutes. Well, I don't commute, nor do I ride on airplanes right now. So what do? Podcasts and audiobooks have become my lifeline, not only to inspiration, but to self-development. I think for me, one of the boxes in my life that I wasn't checking enough was learning, right? And I felt like I never had time to learn. Well, I can go on a walk and listen to a podcast, or be in my car and listen to an audiobook, and I'm consuming this media that I'm selecting, that I'm choosing what gets to go into my ears and my mind. And I'm giving myself a reason to stay motivated. I'm participating in media that I know will keep me motivated throughout the day. So if you need help in that category, that's how you get it, by increasing the amount of positive, motivating media in your life. And then people, asking yourself who you're surrounding yourself with. Are they creating motivation, or are they inhibiting your motivation? And what can you do about that? I know that there are challenges with family and people in your life that it's not as easy to just say, I'm not going to deal with this person. I'm not going to make time for them. I actively make a list of who the people in my life that I want to spend more time with, and who the people are that I want to spend less time with. And, that may sound a little cutthroat, but in this short life, I want people who are going to lift me up. I want people who are going to give me energy versus suck my energy. You feel me? Movement. So, couple things. Moving every single day. Our bodies were not made to sit in a chair our entire lives, And if you think about that, and you think about that our bodies weren't made for this, so basically we're not allowing them to optimally run. right? It's like if you didn't give your computer the updates that it needed. I mean, some of you are there, you know what I'm talking about. You're like 5 updates back and you're like, I have to restart my computer 5 times a day. Well, it's the same thing with your body. If you are not moving it every single day, it's not going to function the way it's supposed to. So if you're having ailments and you're having pain and you're having challenges, start with movement. It can be as simple as getting outside for walks. You know, I challenge everybody that I'm working with, if you have meetings that you do not need to be on a camera, or even if you do, you know, the touch base with your supervisor where you don't need to be tethered to your computer, can you take it on a walk? I do that all the time with clients, with, you know, especially ones that I want to get walking more, I'll ask them to do that on the other side. And it's about finding something you love. There is a form of movement that every one of you can find that you love. So finding something you love, moving every single day, and walks for meetings. The greatest innovation in fitness over the last year has been you have access to everything. Where you might have had a trainer or a style of workout that you didn't have access to based on where you're living, you have access to all of it now. So it's just about exploring and really finding what it is that you can love and want to do over and over again. Mindfulness. So 2 things under mindfulness that have changed my life. The first one is gratitude. And as I went on a spiritual journey myself to understand what spirituality meant and how I wanted it to fit into my life, because it hadn't prior to a couple years ago, and it really happened on the beach after my throat surgery, it is impossible to be grateful and angry at the same time. I just wrote an article for, or had an interview with Authority Magazine, and I can share that with anybody afterwards if they're curious about the impact that gratitude has had on my life. The biggest impact is not just that you start to look around and say, okay, these are all the things I'm grateful for, that I'm on the wake up list this morning, that my body's healthy, that my family's healthy, that, you know, my work is prosperous again. Is that you can change the lens through which you see the world, where you start seeking things to be grateful for. It's a choice every single day with how we view and perceive the world and the optimism that comes along with it. And gratitude is the stepping stone to get you there. So whether it is just, you know, when you wake up in the morning before you go to bed, just thinking about 3 things you're grateful for. I happen to write it down and share it with a friend. So I have an email every day that I send back and forth with a friend where we just write down all the things we're grateful for. And in those moments where I'm having a hard time, I lean into gratitude. If I'm having a bad day, I get out the email and I write that list right then, because it always makes me feel better. And then meditation. And I know, you know, a lot of people can be challenged by meditation and think it's not for them. I've tried it. My brain won't quiet. Well, just like your heart beats and you can't make it stop, you can't make your brain stop. Meditation is not about stopping your thoughts. It's about taking these moments of pause, of reset, of giving your brain some calm. And they're all types and kinds. And certain types may not be something that works for you, but there are other types that may work for you. So, you know, it may be a mantra-based meditation. It may be silence. It may be sound meditation. One of those you may connect with, but you have to try. Like I said, Mark Benioff, many other successful people, probably even many of your executives that you support, incorporate meditation as part of their life. And the only way I can describe it is it took the edge off. So as you're moving through the world, and if you are annoyed when you're waiting in a line, or you find yourself kind of short fused or bubbling up with emotion, it just takes the edge off, right? And it allows you to reset your mind. So gratitude and meditation. And then lastly, meals. You know, thinking about this one vessel that we have, food as nourishment. When I went through the experience of my mom being ill with cancer and passing away, you know, I know many of you have probably had people in your lives that have had cancer or have been sick with other prognoses. all you want to do is fix it, right? You want to find a way to control it. You want to find something you can do in this experience where you have very little control. And I read this amazing book that I highly recommend called Anti-Cancer. And it talks about the terrain that's created in the body and whether the terrain is helping you fight cancer or helping you grow cancer. And it really changed my perspective around what I put into my body. We'd always eaten healthy as a family. I grew up with that mentality, but I started to question and understand ingredients better and what I was consuming. And, there's keto this and paleo that and vegan this. I believe in food as nourishment, and that as long as most of the things you're putting in your body are acting as nourishment, they're from the ground, they're vegetables, they're multicolor, they're, you can derive where the ingredient came from. It's not a word you don't understand on a box, and that most things are not from boxes and bags, then you're going to fuel your body in the best way. Your brain is going to function the best, your body is going to function the best, and you're going to be able to have the longevity and the strength that you're looking for. So in my life, personally, I adopt an 80-20 rule, that 80% of the time, I follow those rules that I just mentioned. Food is nourishment. I know where the ingredients came from. And then 20% of the time, I do whatever I want because, I don't really like the term balance. I think that gets overused. And when you are living a purpose-driven life, it's not about the work-life balance. It's about the integration between your work and life, right? But 80-20 allows you to have this ratio of most of the time I'm fueling my body and then I'm having some fun. Anybody who knows me knows this girl loves a bubble tea, and I'm going to eat my kale salad so I can have my bubble tea. But here's the thing. I don't want you walking away thinking, oh my gosh, these are all the things I need to add to my today. You get 2 out of 4 of these on a daily basis, you are doing a good job, okay? It's one of the things in the pandemic, I don't know if you found yourself doing this, but were there not days where you just said, I did the best I could today, and it was good enough? They're just those days, right? 2 out of 4 is a win. So I'm going to exit the slideshow really quick because I want to bring up an important conversation I'd love for you to have. So one of the things that when I'm working with different executives or clients on their wellness goals, I talk to them about the conversations they have with their partners, right? They haven't thought about necessarily talking to their partner about, here are my wellness goals. Here are my priorities. Here's what's important to me. Here's what it's going to mean in terms of my time. I want to talk to you about that to see how you feel about it. And I want to understand what your wellness goals are so that I can be as supportive as possible. Those conversations are critical in a relationship and when you share a family and time and space. Have you had that conversation with your boss? With your executive? I'm going to go back to all of our friend Lindsay, who again introduced me to BASE. We went my first time outside of my apartment and seeing another human being after 4 months was to go to the Hamptons with Lindsay this summer. She had an opportunity to get away for a couple weeks, and she's like, "We'll get tested. We'll be off the grid." And she said, but there's one requirement. You have to help me put the Peloton in the car so we can bring the Peloton. Get you friends who will help you bring the Peloton in the van out to the Hamptons, or anywhere for that matter. Lindsay's a great model of, and anybody who's Peloton buddies with her knows that. Her wellness and her fitness is a big part of her life, and it's important. And it's not about, it's not about keeping it separate. It's about having that conversation about how it fits into your life. So I highly recommend having these conversations with the boss or the executive that you support to say, these are my wellness goals. This is what's important in keeping me the best version of me so that I can support you in the best way. but I also want to know yours so that I'm doing everything that I can within my time and my support of you to make sure that we're mutually supporting each other, right? That's always the best way for there not to be any miscommunications, for you to be on the same page about what your priorities are and how you're going to spend your time and how you're going to support them in spending their time. So I'm going to go back to the slides one more time, and then we are going to have some Q&A if anybody does have questions. So this all may sound great, and you're like, oh my goodness, how can I get this experience brought into my company? Well, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So over the past year, as I mentioned, based on what my company had done before and where I saw a real need was around virtual wellness experiences. So we have launched this initiative at Fit Collective and have been bringing virtual wellness experiences to companies around the country and globally. Live fitness classes, wellness workshops. We virtually come into your company and can engage, all company initiatives and meetings, employee resource groups, fundraising initiatives, workshops look like, this, the guy standing on the ball, which, we won't be teaching classes on how to stand on a ball, but that's Yoga Dan, and he teaches an amazing workshop on postural alignment and how to set up your work from home workspace, but to also teach you the different exercises and stretches to do throughout the day so that your workspace and your alignment is at its best. So I'd love to, as a follow-up for this, if anybody's interested, not only would I love to talk to you about it, but I'm also going to be giving away a $100 gift card for any referral. So a $100 gift card to Whole Foods, the Target, or Amazon. So any of those above. And this is where you can contact me. So whether it's to discuss bringing virtual wellness experiences to your company or just to reach out and say hi, I also teach virtual classes myself, and you can find all my contact information here. And I'm teaching cycling classes if you happen to be in LA on the beach in Santa Monica. So you can find my Instagram or LinkedIn at Liz Van Voorhis, and my email and website are here as well. And then I'm going to come out and just see if anybody has any questions before we wrap up. Body straight. Yeah, exactly. She's bendy. All right. Any questions about anything that I mentioned or anything that you're wondering about? Hopefully we have some questions. And if not, you can always reach out to me at any of the places that I gave and ask me something there offline.
I'll pop in and help bring in some of the questions that were asked.
Thank you.
During your chat too. I think I'm really excited to dig into more to Fit Collective because it's just, I think we all get a little fatigued with just standard Zoom. I mean, that's why we started Base Live. We were like, let's try something a little different. So I think it's fantastic. And you said too that folks can there are all sorts of types of experiences that you can do. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, we focus on physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, because without all of those components, you can't really be whole. And, often I think, especially being in the fitness world, so many people think it's the physical wellness that can be holding them back. Mm-hmm. When you peel back the layers, it's usually the mental and emotional, and particularly throughout the last year, I've led workshops on purpose and values, as I mentioned, because this was a period of reflection where we're questioning our purpose and our values throughout this entire experience in this existential crisis we have all endured. I did a presentation for a business development team on coping with the new normal. These business development execs were used to being on a plane 70% of the time, being in person with their clients, not being home with their families. And how do you continue to excel and meet your business results while in this new environment. You know, it's one of the things that is unique about my experience, that I spent so long in the corporate world and I understand all of your journeys, but that I also simultaneously spent so long in the fitness industry, and the ability to bring them together and to really use wellness as a conduit to living your best life and, you know, start leading. You can't be the leader that you want without working on all of this first.
Do you find that with some of the organizations you've worked with over the last, gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this, year now, that that mindset and that acknowledgement of how important that is has become more prominent within organizations because we've been sort of forced to?
Absolutely. You know, when a year ago, when we all were facing the same unknown and ambiguity and anxiousness about the future, and, you know, being able to see that the fitness industry would be drastically impacted. Mm-hmm. The quick epiphany was, oh, companies now are going to understand how important wellness is. And, you know, my favorite quote is, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the Confucius, the Chinese quote from Confucius, where he says, we have two lives. And the second one starts when we realize we only have one. When I went through the experience with my mom, I just heard the term recently in a podcast, mortality motivation. And I couldn't agree more about the experience that I had when I lost my mom. That's what woke me up and said, I'm squeezing every second out of every hour out of every day for the rest of my life. And I feel like so many people have been forced to have that experience over the last year, whether it's because you had family members who are affected, or you just could see yourself now in the shoes of somebody who could have a health hardship. And so companies now have not just realized how important wellness is, but that it's way more three-dimensional than they thought it was in the past. You know, it's not just like give everybody gym reimbursement and we're good. It's how do I, you know, engage employees in a different way, knowing their circumstances are totally different. They've got kids schooling and screaming and, you know, coming at them. And how do we support their mental and emotional well-being in a different way than we ever thought of?
It's so great. And I think that's my new favorite quote now.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
It's awesome. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It's just, I'm so glad that everyone got to get to know you and hear your story. We had another last question I saw come in. Training can include a group, correct? Yes. I'm assuming yes.
That's honestly one of the biggest benefits about all of the programming we do is that, you know, you're in meetings all day with your team. You're talking about work all day with different people, but the ability to really connect occurs in other environments. So since the pandemic started, I had developed a wellness program for a company in the insurance industry, and they came to me and they said, and they already worked remote. So they already knew what it was like to work remote. And it was still a really challenging experience throughout the pandemic. And they came to me and they said, would you be willing to do a daily motivation movement class every single day to start the day? So it's going to be a year in 2 weeks with them. Every single weekday, I have started their day with either 15 or 30 minutes of movement and motivation. And it, you know, that's one of their favorite parts is they get to see their coworkers in a different environment. And, you know, Carl, I always reference Carl, the CFO, who like you would never think would be like, you know, doing kicks to Footloose like this morning in our class. Like Carl's loving it. So it's just you get to connect and see your coworkers in a totally different way.
I love it. Guys, you have to take advantage of this. I think it's fantastic. And again, thank you so much, Liz. This has been fabulous. And guys, I have so many other resources that she shared too that I'll make sure to drop into the email. And then if you're in the Facebook group, I'll post it in the Facebook group too, so you guys have direct access to it. Thank you so much, Liz.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great rest of the summit.
Thanks.